Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopathic Dr. Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and Kaigenesis, and I'm joined again today by the amazing Jessianna Saville, principal and head lead dietitian, renal dietitian, I should say, at K&I. If you haven't watched any of our videos before, Jessianna is a regular on there, and I'm always so grateful to have her on board. She has been in the renal dietitian space for a long time and is what I would call cutting edge and leading when it comes to that space, very up to date with the latest stuff going on, running trainings for dietitians wanting to move across into the renal space. She's a wealth of information. And Jessianna, I'm always so grateful to connect with you and have you on board. So welcome again.
Likewise.
So we thought today we would cover a topic that is just, it might sound basic, but sometimes, as you were saying before I hit record on this, sometimes the basics are the things that get overlooked. We get a little bit too complicated in life when it comes to kidneys, especially because I think people are told it's incurable and how serious it is. And we forget some of the really basic things that we can do to really up level and support our kidney function. So today we wanted to talk about ways to optimize and really level up and support our kidneys and keep them healthy. So I'm going to hand the words across to you, and why don't you just take us through some of the things that get missed and what we can do in our day-to-day life to really optimize and keep our kidneys functioning the way they should be.
Perfect. I love this topic, and I've been thinking a lot about it recently because I'm taking a course right now that's about immunology, and this is like all these like real technical stuff, and we got the different types of immune cells and how you make them be stronger and how you enhance all sorts of stuff. But what has stood out to me, and I've reflected a lot about this for our patients with kidney disease and also just my own life personally, is how there are some core foundational health principles that can be the bedrock of healing. And sometimes when we're not feeling well or when we feel anxious about what's going on, we skip over these bedrock principles. So I thought we could talk about bedrock principles of health. And then from there, we can talk about if you're doing all these things or focusing on them, what is the next step then to work on getting into the deep dive of what's going on with your kidneys? So bedrock principles.
Let's do it.
I'm a dietitian, so of course we're going to start with food, right? Food is controversial on so many levels. One, in the kidney disease world, in all the world, right? Food is like this massive controversy, and so many things are demonized, and so many practices are thought to be the miracle, and it can be so incredibly confusing for people. One thing that I really appreciate as a basic principle for people. I mean, if you feel like you're getting, like tons of information thrown at you and you're seeing this miracle cure and that miracle cure or whatever, one thing, getting back to the basics of food, is just starting with whole food, right? Food in its natural form. Doesn't mean you can't cook it, right? But starting with whole food and a variety of food. I know that is sounds so basic, but when people sometimes stop and think about what they're eating, and I have in very stressful times in my life, I've noticed this for myself too. I'm like, wow, I just really am grabbing a handful of tortilla chips for lunch. I've been doing that for weeks. Why am I doing that? And then you stop and you're like, okay, I could make a better choice. But sometimes people can think, okay, they're eating healthy, but maybe they're just not being conscientious of where they're at. So I think it's a bedrock principle, whole food, right? And a variety of food. And then you start getting the magic of nutrition, like real nutrients.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be as simple as just get rid of candy, get rid of soda, and just start with some real whole foods.
Yeah.
If that feels confusing, of course, you can work with a dietitian to just break it down, because a lot of us bring in food myths and food fears and food anxiety, where food looks like it's always going to hurt us. So when you work with a dietitian or a professional, they can really help you strip away those pieces and get a plan that's good for you. Okay, food, bedrock principle. Okay, other bedrock principle, and if you're watching our other videos, you'll hear my personal experience with this. Another bedrock principle is just sleep, right? In our world, a lot of times busyness is glorified.
Mm-hmm.
I am guilty as charged.
You and me both.
And I had several years between having small kids and having a husband who wasn't well, and growing a business. My sleep got put like priority 1,000 millionth, and it really impacted me. And I noticed personally that when I started making sleep a priority, turned off my devices at nighttime, making sure that I really cared about getting to bed. For me, like reading or journaling before bed is actually really relaxing, or I like to have a cup of tea before bed. That's really nice for me.
Yeah, me too.
But when I started prioritizing my sleep, I saw things shift for me that were really, really like impressive. Like just my brain cleared up. And I was like, wow, where has this, acuity been? If you're dealing with a chronic disease like kidney disease, whether it's autoimmune or driven by diabetes or hypertension, one place to stop and think about is your sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to bed and getting enough rest? How is my rest? But just starting with the core basic of, do I have enough time? If you have enough time, but it's not quality time, you can dig into that part further with the professional. But on simplicity, do you just get enough time, period? Like, do you just have some sleep?
Yeah.
And that can be a really big game changer for people. Do you have any other thoughts on sleep there that you want to add to it?
No, I totally agree. And I think it's, just a couple of things just to point out how important sleep is. When we have daylight savings changed, which has happened not long ago here and probably close for you, the rate of heart attacks go up by, now I'm going to pull a figure out, but it was a big significant figure because people lost 1 hour of sleep. Heart attacks leading to cause death go right up. So heart attacks are most when we lose that hour of sleep. That is how important sleep is. And we know cardiovascular system, kidney disease. I always say to people, as you get older, you need less sleep, but I think most people need between 6 to 9 hours of sleep uninterrupted. And one of the great things for measuring sleep, I've got an Oura ring. I used to wake up feeling like I'd get 8 hours sleep and I'd wake up feeling like death warmed up. And it was because I wasn't getting enough deep sleep. And so once I had the Oura ring that gave me that information, I made my room colder, used certain herbs to get deeper sleep because I was spending most of my time dreaming, and my energy levels are super improved. So there's so many great devices and things out there that you can track sleep to improve that sort of stuff. So sleep, totally agree. So amazing.
Huge. Sleep is so huge. And again, it's like, if you feel overwhelmed by all the things you need to do, just start with core basic. Do I get enough sleep? And then if you want to up level a little bit further, I actually really like a device. Like the thing that changed the game for me, like you, is I got a Fitbit. And it's not even a great sleep tracker, but I love to see that sleep number in the morning. And so I really started focusing on how to improve my sleep. And then there's strategies you can use, and a good healthcare professional can guide you through better sleep strategies. Okay, so we got food and we got sleep. Two things that people love, right? And yet we neglect. We love and neglect them at the same time. All right, third thing, which is a huge piece, and I personally feel like this is especially an important piece for the kidney disease, and that is our stress management.
Oh, hallelujah. Yes.
This one, I just cannot overemphasize this piece of stress and our mindset on our kidneys. And I think there's so many links that you can take to it. And there's actually some super good research on this too. But I mean, if you just on the very most simplistic place, think about blood pressure, right?
Yep.
Stress does raise our blood pressure levels. But if you dig in a little bit further, when you're stressed, and we've talked about this before, you start driving your cortisol and your fight and flight response, and those 100% impact the kidneys. I very fully much believe that.
100% they do.
Yeah, so if you just start, again, sometimes you just need to strip away all these things in the world that are coming at you through social media, YouTube, internet. I mean, this will be on YouTube. So this is coming at you. But sometimes you just got to strip some things away and just start basics. So on your stress level, one is just first being aware. Where is my stress level really at? What is driving my stress level? And sometimes you're not sure. You're like, man, I shouldn't be stressed, but I can feel that like anxious, fluttery feeling when XYZ happens or this happens, and I need some tools to manage it. And that is, again, right? Like once you've just taken the basics, can I start with some breathing? And I just start by being aware. Awareness is really powerful. Sometimes when you just start with awareness, it comes down, right? I just say, like, if you name it and you claim it, then you can crush it, right? If you can just verbalize it, sometimes I'm feeling stressed. Sometimes that can really start bringing down those levels. But beyond that, that's, again, sometimes you look at a core principle, work on it in your life as best you can. And then if you're like, man, I feel stuck, I know this is important, what do I do? Then you go to a professional and get some help. So like for you, you talked about, man, I noticed my sleep wasn't good. I got my room colder. I put some good herbs on board and I felt way better. Like that's good professional help. You were your own professional.
Yeah, went to myself.
Yeah, same thing with stress, right? There's so many different ways that you can attack it and different professionals that can help you tackle stress, but hugely important. And on the nutrition side, stress depletes really essential nutrients because your body has to hyperdrive, use them. Yep. And deficiency of those nutrients, especially if you're also not eating well, can drive all the rest of the disease processes.
Yeah. And just if people don't know, one of the nutrients that you burn through the most when you're stressed is magnesium. Magnesium being so important for blood pressure control and muscle contraction, relaxation, and all of those sort of things, energy. So it's probably the primary nutrient 101. And we know that magnesium deficiency, we've done podcasts on this before, definitely contribute and help, especially with cardiovascular disease and kidney disease. So yeah,
that's really true. Yeah. So stress, a huge thing. Okay. So we got sleep, good food, sleep, stress. Those are three foundational principles. One other principle that I love this principle so much, and I do think it really plays into our health, is just our relationships and our social part of our life, right? So we got like these four huge bedrock principles. Our social part of our life is really important for our health. Okay, I know this is not like just extroverts get help or introverts, whatever, but all of us have relationships, right? We're all people, right? People need people. And relationships can really drive health for sure. And there is great research on it. I don't know if I'm sure there's research in the kidney area, but I haven't dug into it as much.
I don't know either, actually. So I gotta
go look. But I know in many other areas, that social piece of things is another place to just think about, right? Like maybe you have a relationship that's broken that you can work on healing. Maybe, right? Maybe you've withdrawn for some reason. I've had times in my life where I've kind of withdrawn, and then I've, as I came into some open space, I've reached out. Maybe, there can be different ways to help nourish that social part of our lives. And it's interesting how even a diagnosis of a disease that makes us feel scared, whatever, can really drive us to start making other changes in our life. And it all comes back and impacts our health.
100% it does. Yeah, I couldn't. And the people, what's that saying? The top 5 people that you hang around with are who you become like. So if you've got a chronic disease and you're hanging around people that maybe smoke or they don't have great health habits and things like that, basic things like that, looking at, okay, well, I'm probably modeling those people, or maybe they encourage me to drink when I shouldn't be, like those sort of things. And then obviously what you're talking as well, the health of the relationship and how that relationship makes you feel. Is it a stressful relationship, anxious? All of those little things can be really scary. But when you've got a chronic disease like kidney disease, taking a stand for yourself and going, well, I need to be surrounded by goodness, and who can I maybe draw into my life to get more of that? They're really good questions to start asking yourself.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Okay, so these these are my four bedrock health principles to think about. Is there anyone that you would add to it? Those are my four that I always think about when I'm kind of, just think about where my life sits on a balance.
No, I mean, exercise is the only other one that sort of pops to mind, the movement piece, because we spend, as you and I are sitting here, what do they say, that sitting is the new smoking? So that would be the only other one.
Yes.
And I think the four that you've said are more important, but I think just thinking about moving and thinking about how your body is and how you use it during the day, with kidney disease, it's often as we get a bit older and things like that, but just getting out in the garden, going for a walk, making sure there's movement and we're not just spending our whole time in front of the TV or sitting. I mean, it's a great way to reduce stress, improve sleep, maybe make better dietary choices if we have had a bit of exercise, getting out in nature. There is so much research about the connection to nature and what that does to our brainwaves. So I do think that lifestyle exercise piece would be my number 5 if I was going to put one in there.
No, you're right. Actually, exercise, I still say that's just one of the core pieces of life, is our bodies are meant to move. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to get moving. Okay, so I think probably people watching this maybe be like, ho hum, okay, like we've heard these healthy things, but I want to emphasize where we just go one step deeper. Sometimes we forget these core pieces and we think that it doesn't matter that much, I'm kind of skimping on my sleep, that doesn't really matter that much. Oh, like my food's, it's okay-ish, they're really great. Sometimes we just need to have some honest introspection, and we can identify one of the basic things to start with. Those basics are so powerful, and they can be huge turning points. And sometimes it's just prioritizing yourself and getting some boundaries in your life. Okay.
100%.
So beyond that, other solutions, right? What are like the simple things you do to help your kidneys? If you could break down each one of those pieces that I talked about and go a step deeper. So if you're going to talk about nutrition, of course, there's like a bajillion different things you can do. I really feel like one of the most important things people can do is to work with a professional to get a good plan in place, because it's going to vary for every single person. If you work with a good professional, they don't do the same thing for every single patient.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for us, someone with an autoimmune kidney disease has a very, very different nutrition plan than somebody who has diabetes versus somebody who has polycystic kidney disease, versus someone who has a hypertensive or idiopathic. It's all very, very different. But the core principle through all of them, if you're like, okay, but let me up level a little bit more. Number one, we track and we look at how much fiber people are eating. And the reason why we do that is that if people are eating a good amount of fiber, not inulin gummies, but if they're eating a good amount of fiber in their diet for real food, usually I can guarantee that they are having an alkaline diet, because they're eating more fruits and vegetables. I could almost guarantee, like, this really cool, easy number that we can shoot for that will drive the other one up. So that is a great principle to hone in on. And then the other one that we will consistently hone in on for our patients, fiber is one of them. I mean, track your food for a little bit, shoot for that 25 grams or more if you need like a target. 25 grams or more at least is a great way to look. And then beyond that, what we're usually looking for is a complete nutrient, that people are getting all the nutrients. We're not looking for like who eats the lowest sodium, because that might be a little bit overplayed, right? It's not just the lowest sodium or the lowest protein, whatever. We're looking for like, who's getting the complete amount of nutrients in their diet? What can we do to up-level the minerals you get? What can we do to up-level the vitamins in your diet? How are we going to like really make your diet nourishing? Because that's a bedrock piece.
Yeah.
And of course, and if you go through some of our other podcasts, you see we'll talk about alkaline fruits and vegetables, and like how do you get in more antioxidants, and all those are like little details that make a difference. But just on simplicity, one target, you can shoot for like more whole foods, more fiber.
Yeah,
to make a massive difference. Like it doesn't really matter if you have autoimmune CKD, whatever, or fiber really works really well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of that. Really good points.
So, and then again, like going down the line, what are you going to do for sleep? Sometimes if you want to dig in deeper, for you, you can use a device, right? A device can be really great. You can dig into, there can be some really amazing supplements to help up level your sleep. If you're waking up, like you said, like you'd wake up, you're like, man, I got a quantity of sleep, but I felt awful when I woke up. Can really dig into, a couple really simple supplements. For example, melatonin actually has some great evidence linked to kidneys in and of
Yes, it does.
There's let's see, Dr. Henderson, and again, like this recommendation should be specific to the person, but she really likes to use it with a lot of her patients, not for sleep, but to help their kidney function in general.
It's a very potent antioxidant, right? We know oxidative damage drives kidney disease. So
yeah. So sometimes those things that help our sleep, they can also have other benefits as well. And there's a ton of other, for myself personally, I love the herbal teas, the relaxing, talk about stress reduction, like get a good night's sleep. That can be really good. Understanding how you're breathing when you're asleep is another like strategy. You can work with a professional. That would be a really great thing that you could do as well.
Yeah, so, really good points.
Okay, now I know you, like me, have had our own brush with lots of stress. Maybe what were some of your core ways? So I'm not sharing just all my things here, but what were some of the core ways that you reduced your stress?
Meditation's been a big one for me. I've got a noisy brain, and I think a couple of things that you mentioned. One was just being aware that I was a stressaholic and I was very addicted to being busy, and I got my self-worth from being busy. So people are like, how are you? Busy? Because that's how I should be. And realizing that busyness was an avoidance sort of behavior for just being. So then I turned to meditation, and I do a lot of meditation. So that was, like you'd mentioned before, that being really self-aware, looking at that wasn't a useful behavior at all, and looking at why I had that behavior, and it's an avoidance thing, and then learning to meditate. And I've worked with some of the best meditation teachers in the world, so then just becoming good at that sort of stuff. So that was for me the biggest way I managed it, but it was recognizing the behavior, because like you'd mentioned before, until you can do that, it's very hard to change it, right?
Yeah. And I 100% agree. And I have to say, like, go back to sleep. When I changed my sleep, my stress levels changed too. Because I just found I could handle things better, and my brain worked better. So yeah, meditation, powerful. It's just so healing, and there's good research on it, tons of good research. Breathing for stress, just learning that 4x4 pattern of like you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, breathe out for 4. Like learning your breathing patterns can be a great way to reset, so many things in your life. So, and everyone has their own stress strategy. Sometimes it's just like making space for something that's enjoyable for you. There's a great doctor that I follow, and she left like busy medical practice and went into functional medicine. But one thing that was really core for her is she started painting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So burned out, and painting was one of her ways to reduce stress. And there's other people, people find different ways, and it makes you happy, right? So that can be another kind of deep dive. And then social, that's always just so personal, looking at your relationships. And then exercise is not being the weightlifter. It's finding what you love to do, that you're excited to get out and move. And sometimes it's just making things just a tiny bit of a stretch for you, right? Like easy, like parking a little bit further away, walking down the street to talk to your neighbor, if that's, a thing that you can do, or, just finding ways where you don't rely on things to move you, but you move yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with exercise, like you mentioned, I want to reiterate your point, is finding something you love. I used to love to horse ride before I fell off in an accident, but I love walking the dog or walking in nature. So other people like yoga. Some people I actually also like lifting weight, but it's whatever you enjoy doing. If it's a social thing, you can incorporate your social aspect with going for a walk with friends and, you know, those kind of things. So find something that you enjoy doing because you're more likely to do it, and make it a regular habit versus something that you just do when you feel like you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And then it becomes truly part of your life.
Yeah. And then of course it's going to work on stress and all of those sort of things because you're doing something you love. So
yeah. So, and I think probably to kind of recap all these, some of these seem so simple and people are like, you know, I don't know, that's just like not enough. I should be doing like tons of stuff to get healthier and better. But I really cannot say enough how important it is to start with fundamentals. And sometimes you're like, man, like, I don't know, I just feel overwhelmed by so many things in my life. Where do I start? Just start with a fundamental piece. And that gives so many people enough momentum that then you go work with a professional, work with someone else to really dig in deeper, right? Like I know what you guys do at Kidney Coach, what we do at Kidney Nutrition Institute. So we have people come in, they're like, man, like I've done a lot of these things, or maybe they haven't. And they're like, I just need some direction. Like, give me a step one. I know where I want to be. I don't want to be on dialysis. I want to be with my grandkids. I had a patient who's like, like her, we do anchor words, right? So her anchor word was bicycle. She just wanted to like get back to biking, and she did. Like 6 months later, she's back on her bike. She was so happy. But she's like, that's what I'm going to think about whenever I'm making choices. And we started with some fundamental pieces, and she was able to get to her goal. But sometimes you need deeper, right? Sometimes you need to get a good herbal regimen in place. Sometimes you need to do some testing to figure out where you have deficiencies or food sensitivities. But a professional can guide you. Sometimes they'll say, hey, start with the basics, low hanging fruit, but see where it takes you from there. And that, you know, it doesn't even have to cost a lot. So.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And you're right. We sometimes forget the basics in going too complicated. And I think when you have the basic foundations right, the more complicated and using supplements and things, they'll always work better when you've got the foundations. And that should be, the foundation should go first, really getting them right. And then whatever you do on top of that, you're building. And then all of that extra work is going to be far more successful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you want to add to any of that, Jess?
Nope. I mean, I think that would be the core pieces. And then as always, we just always say, like, work on finding kidney health, not fighting kidney disease. Like if you work like, how am I going to be healthy? What can I do to be healthy? Instead of like, what am I going to do to fight this disease all the time? Work on finding your health. That gives way, way, way more benefits than always fighting and focusing on disease.
Totally agree. Well, I really appreciate your dig on this. And it's, again, simple, sound advice that I think anyone listening at home can follow. And then if you want to dig deeper, if you want to reach out to the team at K&I, you can go to kidneynutritionalinstitute.org and then click on the team, and you'll see Jessianna and her team there. They work with people all around the world with the benefits of Zoom now. So there is no place too far away that Jess and the team can't support you. So if you want more support around nutrition and dietary stuff, please definitely reach out. If you want to know more about what we do, head to www.kidneycoach.com. We've got the same on Facebook and on Instagram and TikTok and all of those sort of great places. So have a look at that. Make sure you hit subscribe and like. That way you'll get notified anytime Jess and I put up a new video or any other new video goes up. And we want to thank you again for being part of our community. And remember, sometimes it's the simple things that make the biggest change. Jess, thanks again for joining me. Thanks for being part of our community. And we look forward to seeing you all next time. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.